Welcome back. As you probably know by now, it was President Bill Clinton who introduced Ruth Bader Ginsburg to the general public and named her to the Supreme Court. But what do you know who introduced Bill Clinton to Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Well, it was then First Lady Hillary Clinton, who had been closely following Ginsburg's career and thought she'd make a fine Supreme Court justice. Well, the former Secretary of State and Democratic presidential nominee joins me now. Secretary Clinton, welcome back to Meet the Press. And I'd love for you to take us back to those conversations you were having with President Clinton at that time, and just what made you advocate for Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Well, Chuck, I had known Ruth Bader Ginsburg for a number of years, and I had followed her work. I was a great admirer of her groundbreaking litigation, both as a lawyer and a law professor. And I knew that she had served on the Court of Appeals, appointed by President Carter, with great distinction, not only because of her razor-sharp intellect and her ability to frame arguments to make them effective, but how well she got along with her colleagues, including at that time, Judge Scalia, before he was elevated to the Supreme Court. She just seemed to me to have all the attributes that Bill was looking for. Someone who could get to work right away, someone who could work with the other justices, someone who could really break ground as a Supreme Court justice. So you're right. I recommended that in addition to the long list of names that he was being presented with, he take a very hard look at Judge Ginsburg. And I want to add that probably her most effective advocate was her husband, Marty. A lot has been written and said in the last days about Justice Ginsburg's stellar record as a lawyer. But her love affair, her long marriage with her partner, Marty, was really a sight to behold. And he was in her corner from the very moment he met her at Cornell to the very end. Yeah. And I was delighted when Bill said, well, I'd like to meet her and sit and talk with her. And so we arranged for her to come in very carefully under the radar on a Sunday, and they had the best conversation. It was like a master class in constitutional analysis. And at the end, he told me, wow, she really is the real deal.
Let me go to the politics of the court, but I don't want to just do it through the last 4 years. I want to go back to, because one title I didn't use was former senator. You were there for 8 years of these judicial wars, which now seem they look like little skirmishes to where we are today. How broken is this process?
Oh, it's absolutely broken, Chuck. And I was able to watch your previous interviews with Senators Klobuchar and Barrasso. And Senator Barrasso is, doing an epic job trying to defend the indefensible. The system has been broken for quite a while, but clearly the decision that Mitch McConnell made back in 2016 in the midst of that presidential election, but at a much earlier time when Justice Scalia unexpectedly passed away, is what should be the standard now. They talk about, well, we had other standards before. Well, they made a new precedent, and that new precedent, which they all defended incredibly passionately, is to wait for the next president, whoever that is, to make the nomination. But as you clearly heard, that is not what they are intending. And it's another blow to our institutions. What's happening in our country is incredibly dangerous. Our institutions are being basically undermined by the lust for power for personal gain in the case of the president, or power for institutional gain in the case of Mitch McConnell, at the cost of ensuring that our institutions withstand whatever the political winds might be. Yeah. But they made this decision back in 2016, and they should be held account for it.
You know, I'm curious, can we ever get to a point where there'll be a détente in this? Because you heard Senator Barrasso's rationale. He's predicting future behavior. You know, it reminded me of the movie Minority Report, and that's a scary process. If we start anticipating future behavior, that leads us into horrible direction. But when you rationalize based on that, how do you ever get a détente in these political wars?
Chuck, look, I think we're at a very dangerous point in American history. And there's been a concerted effort, as you well know, going back decades now, to turn the clock back on progress that has opened doors to people otherwise left out and marginalized, women, minorities, obviously. There has been a very well-funded effort led by groups like the Federalist Society and others to use the courts to undo, going back to the Board of Education, the Brown v. Board of Education decision. If you listened carefully, and of course there was so much going on, people didn't necessarily pay attention to a lot of the hearings of the nominees for district and circuit court judgeships. It was shocking. Not only did an unfortunate number of them have absolutely no experience that would qualify them for the federal bench, but a number of them would not even say they agreed with Brown v. Board of Education or with other precedents. And it's not just a question of choice. It's a question of whether we're going to continue the move toward progress, by which we mean a more perfect union that everyone has a place in and the rights to participate or not. And I think people need to understand that this court decision is critical to that future.
Yeah. Secretary Clinton, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your own personal memories of Justice Ginsburg and your perspective in all of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello from Washington, I'm Chuck Todd, and thanks for checking out the Meet the Press channel on YouTube. Click on the button down here to subscribe and click over here to watch the latest interviews, highlights, and other digital exclusives.